Good evening, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Let's Talk Racism Ireland, where we make truth a big deal. I am your host, Harrison Paul, and tonight is an exciting night, I'm a little bit late to the party on this topic, but I'm happy that I'm finally here. And look, better late than never, isn't it? So, this is a topic that I was itching. I love a lot. People know this. I love it a lot. It's because I understand it a lot. It's definitely something that I feel God has spoken to me about in my life a lot, and something that I understand. It's quite interesting because as Christians, we would always say it doesn't matter and these things don't matter. So I take my Christianity very seriously. So to see that God was very, in tune with this side of my life was quite different. It was kind of different for me and surprising to me. So listen, anyway, today we have the Dr. Umar podcast on Joe Budden that went around and was going crazy. I have to just dive into it a little bit. So in this section, Dr. Umar talks about the interracial relationships and what he thinks about them like that. So look, we're just going to get straight into it. I'm going to play the tape right now, and then we're just going to have a chat about it afterwards. I'm going to let you know what I think about the topic.
I know you're going to go.
I'm going to crack you. I want you to finish.
Now.
I'm going to crack him. I
Now.
want you to finish.
No, you're not.
I promise
Because
you.
you're bunny hopping. Listen.
I know.
The reason you should not be with her.
I want you to finish your
I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish.
I'm going to crack
This
your
where I
muffin
was.
too. Go ahead.
The reason you have no business being with a Caucasian woman is although she nor her family may have participated in our oppression directly, she benefits from it. Every white person benefits from the enslavement of blacks. Every white person benefits from the marginalization of black folks. Every white person benefits from every handicap that has been introduced into our community. And I'm quite sure she, like every other white person, has done nothing to level the playing field.
Now, let's get into the main part, right? Okay, so when we talk about interracial relationships, and he talked about, it's just a lot. I think I might even put another clip for you guys to see.
Like don't come with nothing. You've been conditioned in your household that is pro-black everything, not knowing that somebody from another color might do way more better for you in your life than a black person might do. Not saying it might not be that way. I'm just telling you, love and like don't come with nothing. So what a person preference is a person preferences. And black people been conditioned for so long ago that there's certain things that we gotta stop. Start letting other things.
I don't think a white...
Also, I think being pro-black, too, for instance, we're pro-black wealth, right? How do you build black wealth if you don't go and marry someone black? There's no way to pass that wealth down blackly.
You were just were you trying to rob
Black
the
wealth is
wealth?
black wealth. I make money with white people, but it's still black wealth at the end of the day. When they talk about my legacy and my history,
It come home to a black woman.
That black man did his thing and he got the bag. They not gonna care about it.
Let me start by saying what I think about that. Although, yes, financially, it's good to put money back into the black community. Black wealth. I think this stuff is very, very valid, right? But I want to say this: what was the most important thing for me, the most. So I'm going to tell about a story. I don't know, stories are a nice way to talk about things. Basically, right? I had when I grew up in Ireland, the culture within Ireland, it was very, very hostile towards black women. Completely hostile towards black women. I said this in my previous podcast, black women were not an option. Were never an option. We make jokes of black women. Anybody who grew up in Ireland, this podcast, mostly Irish people, it was bad. I know in the world stage as well, black women went through it. Let's not put that. We all know the type of rhetoric that Serena Williams received in her lifetime, that she was a man, that she was this. We all know the rumors about Sierra, that stupid rumor about Sierra being a man. We all remember those Michelle Obama insults. This is the life that we lived in Ireland as well. And we always had these dumb excuses like, oh, it's too much like my sister, or it's too like a cousin, I can't. Just lame excuses. And I want to say a life-changing moment for me, because I know that the black woman has gone through crap because they destroyed her image. They destroyed her image completely and utterly, you know. Her beauty. Her beauty was, it was defamed and tarnished. You know, I always talk about it. I have a podcast where I went into this, and it's disingenuous for any black man to say that was not the case. And I think collectively as black men, we can all agree that black people in general, our beauty was defamed. Now you can imagine women who are supposed to be, you know, the figures of beauty, like the flowers of this world, they were even made seem like their flower is a dead flower. You know what I mean? It's nothing appealing. And now I beg to differ that even today, we're still in a place where a black woman needs a Caucasian cosign in order for her to still shine. And we do, and I think we're so programmed in that, that we don't ever take a second to say, you know, because of the root of this straight hair and that, you know, trend or curse, let's properly, as a community, aim at rebuilding what was actually tarnished. And a few black people in from America have, you know, who believe in that they're American and not they're American, not African American, have left some comments, you know, on their views on that, and that they feel American or whatever. And it's that same thing. I think as a black community, we do have to take mindful steps to say, well, this is what was done to us on purpose, and we cannot allow that to succeed. If you're anybody with any sort of self-respect and self-determination, say, okay, that's how I got to America. Well, they wanted to dump us. They used us and dumped us then. It wasn't, then, oh, you know, no way, I'm going to work against that. You know what I mean? You can't compare yourself to other Americans who arrived as settlers, who generally picked up their life and decided, you know, your ancestors are grieving for that. You know, they didn't intend for this. But at the same time, choose what you want. There will be a day where Africa gets what it's worth and everyone will want to be African again. I think someone said, Marcus Garvey said that it's time to sell being African back to the African. And he also said, do not remove the kinks from your hair, remove them from your mind. So back to my story then. I remember when I first got to Los Angeles. This is my first time in America. And I was in Texas first, but then I arrived later in Los Angeles. And so when I first got there, I was staying in an Airbnb. I kind of did one of them, like, through myself, you know, and see what would happen for myself. So I was in an Airbnb. I was loving it. It was probably one of the most exciting times of my life. I was 19 years old, and I'll never forget, like, I always say this, seeing the people who I always saw on sitcoms and TV and seeing them in real life and being like, wow, these people are like, you know, they're as big as they are on TV. And I want to talk about some stories that I really, really love that really impacted me. So one of the first stories is this, right? There's a guy who was staying in the Airbnb in which I was living. And his name, I won't say his name, of course, I'll kick his privacy. And there was a dark-skinned woman as well in that Airbnb. Now, this guy had a crush on this dark-skinned woman, right? And I remember she was super cool. She, you know, that's what I would do, because I knew I thought I was not into black women. I didn't actually believe black women were attractive. I didn't believe it. Like, it was a genuine fact of life, you know? So whenever I'm speaking to my condition. No one can tell me I need to get over racism or I made a big deal of everything. I know myself, I worshiped white people. I know their opinion of me mattered so much. I know all these things. And I know I'm not the only black person who thought like this. I know I'm not the only person who was programmed like this. I know I was programmed to believe that flowy hair was more beautiful than nappy hair. I know I was programmed to believe that flowy hair was better than locks, sacred locks. I know I was programmed to believe all these things. So any of those conservative naysayers who try to act like we're just making a big deal out of nothing, we've got some serious work to do here on the mind of the African. So because of that history, I'll go into that after. I see this black woman, and she was like my big sis. That's what I always do. She was kind of older than me, and I was like, okay, big sis, I always do it. She was like cool, really, really cool. And she kind of, we just would, and there was just a nice backyard, so I have to give context. There was this nice backyard that everyone used to chill at. So like an Airbnb with a bunch of different rooms, and there was like a backyard kind of like hot LA summer where people would just sit at the back out and chill and, you know, have a drink or two or whatever. And it was just really cool summer. So I had a friend that was really cool. He was from Louisiana. That was like my boy, like really country, you know what I mean? Like, and I just love this dude, man. I love this dude. And, I later find out that he was into this dark-skinned woman. And so now you have to understand, right? This guy he's a good-looking black man, you know what I mean? You can call a brother good-looking, you know. He was a good-looking black man, and he was cool, a lot of charisma, you know, very country, his accent, and just a cool guy. So I remember instantly being 19, I think he was older than me. I was very impressionable and like, yeah, wow, this is my cool friend, you know, kind of way. And I was really like, I don't want to say into this guy, but you know what I mean? Like, this is like a big bro. I was like, oh, yeah, this guy's cool. So that was important to the fact that when I watched him be into that dark-skinned girl, when later they came out, they obviously none of them showed it at first, but I think later he came to me and was like, yo, shorty, you know? And I'm like, guys, bear in mind now, this is just for the fact that she's a black, dark-skinned girl. I can stand here to say that that's literally what it was. And obviously I'm not thinking this in that moment, although it's not like step by step, it's just like a matter of fact in my mind. I'm here thinking, bro, you one of them ones, like, you him, like, what? It just didn't make sense to me. Why? Because in Ireland, we all know in Ireland, a trophy girl was never a black girl. A trophy girl was a white girl. That's a fact. Anybody who's watching this from Ireland, you know that's a fact. A trophy girl was not a white girl. The closest a trophy girl will get is a mixed race girl. But you're not walking around with a dark-skinned Nigerian girl knowing you're walking around with the trophy of the city. This is how we were socialized in Ireland. And it's important to be honest about these things. And I was even talking to my homie recently. I was like, you know, having a black girl is not a trophy. Is that something we should just look like, okay, that was just that? No. And I always even said to him, like, how do you think that affected black women growing up? You know, I have an amazing point. Like, we talk about black women and, oh, they're so tough and they're so this and they're so, you know, they've had to guard their hearts and, yeah, maybe have become a little bit strong-charactered because, listen, the one thing I love about life is real. Look at this. So you got a pretty white girl. When she goes into the shops, life treats her like a pretty white girl. Hear me. When she goes to the shop, something small, the shopkeeper says to her, "No, 95, darling." Something as small as maybe her dad's friends or just everything around life. A young girl, from the minute she starts to become, let's say, of age, 16, 17, 18, she's beginning to understand that, maybe we'll say 17, I think I have an upper hand in this world I live in. Why? Because when I walk outside, that guy will turn his head, that guy will turn his head, that man will turn his head. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that socializes her then to be confident, to be open, to be... Now, I even had a scenario where I was in Aldi, you know, and there was some black women in the line, and some dude, Aldi's, by the way, for anybody from America or anything, it's like a shopping center, it's like a Walmart. And I'm buying my stuff, and some British dude was like in front of these black women and kind of just disregarded them. I think they were packing their bags after just paying, and he was behind the line, and he just disregarded in a way where I said, "Excuse me, can you not see there's ladies there?" And I do feel the need to remind, especially white society, that a black woman, because these were black women, and they were not even like wigged up. That's what I loved about that moment. they were like on the way to work. They seemed to have like a care job. Anybody knows a care job, like a nursing job, and they just had their braids, nappy braids, beautiful, and just two young women, probably in their 20s, and I felt this guy kind of just disregarded, and he was a bit of a posh. You could see he was a little bit posh, and I wanted to embarrass him for him. I said, "Excuse me, can't you see these women? These are ladies." And I felt the need to remind him, and it hurts me that we have to remind someone that it's a ladies. Yes, because there's an African, because the hair doesn't flowy and all those kind of things. It's a lady. And that's why I'm so against wigs and all that kind of stuff. I want us to reinforce that in your nappiness, in your braids that are, let's say, 2 weeks old, you're a lady. The same way a white woman goes out with a messy bun and she's still considered a lady. We have to restore that. We have to restore that for the black woman. So, like I said, the white girl is socialized to get little things like that where she may be in a line and someone goes, "Oh, go ahead. You know, because who doesn't want to seem like a gentleman to a good-looking woman? So life treats you in a way that you begin to realize, even any good-looking guys on this, watching this, can be like, I think I got something going on for myself. Why? Because that shopkeeper was nice to me. That fellow was nice to me. That person at work was nice to me. That wasn't, and not just nice, you get to know him, right? Now, think of what a black woman went through. Same shopkeeper, $9.95, please. You know, I guess I'm over exaggerating. And then they also maybe had white friends and watched life look different for the white friend. And then let's not talk about the fact that they watched us go for the L'Oreal commercial girls, and those are the people we went after and sought after in Dublin. And then they're thinking, okay, cool, I need to get my wig fixed up. I need to look like L'Oreal. Guys, this is real stuff. So when we talk about, you know, why they're hard-hearted and all that kind of stuff, but when we go back to me in that summer, it was the first time I had seen dude be a guy who could get a trophy chick, good-looking guy, you know what I'm talking about, go for a dark-skinned woman. I had not seen that. If a boy back home in Dublin, if we know he's one of him, he's going for a white shorty. He's going for a flowy hair. And that's the one he's going to post on his IG. That's the one he's going to show off about. That's the one he's going to gossip about. That's the one, anybody on this live talking different, there was probably a handful of brothers that we know who like themselves some sisters consistently. And we all know that brother. And we knew he's just a brother from the continent. You get what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't a case of like, and we all knew like, oh, that's different. But we all knew what we was going for. And anybody here who's going to say different is a liar. Right? So that was my first encounter with black love. Wasn't love, but black. Do you get what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'd never seen it prior, but with the homeboys, when we were with the homeboys, we didn't talk about, get our phone and say, oh, did you see that black girl? Whoa, and everyone know, whoa, you're not going to get her. You know guy talk, you're not going to get her. Oh, no, I'm going to get her. You're not getting her. Oh, y'all talk about her. When we see her that night, you better talk to her. Now, there was only white girls we had them discussions about. So watching a homie be like, yo. About black woman was like, I remember I'm 19 years old. And of course, there were some white girls who came at one point in that Airbnb, and I was all over them like a rash. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's what that was. So check this out. And then the next time I came in encounter was in, and then I went out another night in LA, and I went out with some of my friends I was with there, and I just went to like a bar. I don't go to bars now anymore. For the Christians out there, yes, had to put that in there. But at that time, I went to a bar. And I see there was like, I remember there's these black women, very impressionable black women. I'm going to also say very beautiful black women, like very confident, I remember, and obviously they're a little bit older than me, so I was hoping they weren't going to know my age. But the guys who were with me were like a little bit older. And I remember that night, the place revolved around these black women. And revolving around other black women there. But I remember, especially me and my friends, they were revolving around. Again, another scenario. If we went out in Dublin, the night was revolving around some blondes and brunettes. It wasn't revolving around some black women. And I remember one of them had braids, the other one had short hair. I remember quite vividly. And I was too stressed. I was just trying to make sure they didn't figure out I wasn't grown. That was so I didn't get to enjoy none that night. But I was a little bit gassed up because they looked grown. And again, that's just two experiences. And then I remember another, it just kept going on. And I can remember my life changing. That's why I always talk about North America. And I always talk about who they were and how they loved themselves. My life began to change. And then I went to move to Canada after that. And my life began to change. And I began to see people who are just so into themselves. You know, Irish culture is a subgenre of Black Irish culture, is a subgenre of Irish culture. Just a bunch of Negroes trying to be as Conor McGregor as they can be. I'm sorry, that's a fact. And of course, having our little, it's nuance, right? It's the little Nigerian phrases or the Nigerian moments or the black moments in there. But it can feel like the main goal is to hell can you get? But watching Americans being this entity that was such a contrast to white society around them. I remember being with white boys, with my black friends, and there was a new form that you take on around your white friends in Ireland. Don't lie. You know, there's a demeanor. I remember being with black boys in America and in Canada. Their demeanor didn't change. This taught me so much. It's like their demeanor didn't change. Oh my God, I get too positive. This is like, I'm learning, their demeanor didn't change. I don't know. I want to go somewhere, so many places with that, but I think I'll just leave that there. And that will speak so much for itself. Their demeanor did not change. They were black on Tuesday, black on Monday, black on Friday, blackety, black. I don't know. And you know what that is? And that spoke to me like, no, we stand. I don't want to explain it and ruin it for you. Take that for yourself. That just showed who stood at a place. Right? So what black love means to me as a black Irish young youth, and when I got with my soon-to-be wife, black woman, you know, and how God brought that into my life, you know, and that's another thing that I do felt God was like, I want you to be with a black woman. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's what was kind of like crazy for me. Like, you would think this multicultural, blah, blah, blah. And I always go to the story about my mom when she talks about Martin Luther King. And I had an argument with her, like, oh, do you think Martin Luther King could have been with a white woman? She goes, no. The representation mattered. That black love mattered. That unity mattered. To see a black woman be loved mattered. To see a black woman be cherished mattered. That's why there's false allegations about the fact that he cheated on her. Even when we look about Barack Obama, I know we have all our qualms about Barack Obama, this, that, and the third, but a white man a black man in the White House loving a dark-skinned woman. Let's give our brothers something. And I think imagery is one of the main factors when I talk about slavery and everything. That's why I don't believe slavery, it's this past thing that we're holding on to. they were persistent to destroy us even in this current age with imagery. Imagery is so important. And I feel, had I grown up in Ireland, seeing the cool dudes in the street, the ones we knew who were him, had I seen them, or, you know, sometimes you're young, and you kind of get in with your big bros, or you talk to them, and I wish I had seen big bros all on the phone being like, look at this girl. You know, sometimes your big bro sit you down like, look at this, a real girl. You know, like, not the little ones you have, just being big bros. I wish they were like, look at this. Look at that black woman. You see that black woman? My life would have been different. And I feel like then it would have influenced how us as friends, we would have competed to love on black women, to get a black woman. And I think this imagery is so important. And I think we always try to think about, what about white women and what about love? But what about what black women had to go through all this time? If that doesn't matter to you, you cannot be pro-black. You cannot be pro-black. If it doesn't matter to you that the imagery that Serena Williams or anybody look at Serena Williams was considered a man, and you're kind of like, yeah, well, look, she'll get over it, or work itself out kind of thing. No. Unfortunately, you cannot be pro-black. Because I think one of the most important things in this time is imagery, is rebuilding the image of black love, of the black home. We also understand how the black home systematically was broken down, all sorts of things. I think it's so important to love. That's what I think. So although I think, yes, money is a huge thing, and I understand there's a lot of interracial people who fall in love or whatever, but my honest opinion was, especially for anyone in Ireland, I always speak to that thing. If we had more of a culture where black women stood on a pedestal, as much as we know we put those white women, I know the numbers would not be so high for the interracial relationships. And that for me is unfair. That to me shows me black women missed, as Tatiana always says, you know, she rephrases that. They missed being a flower that was poured into by society, by simple things like going to the store and someone seeing her in her natural nappy state and be like, who's that? They didn't get that. That's why today we're still wearing wigs. They're deprived of that. That's why I encourage my queen to wear her twists and this. It's deeper than just saying, oh, listen, I just wear it for a trend. Our ancestors died, and then we had parents called ugly, and even now, racism has just become covert, but we had real-time people of our ancestors and our grandparents who were real-time overtly called ugly, cartoons with blackface, all sorts of things. And if we are not going to say to ourselves, listen, it's time for us to rebuild that mindfully. I want to have a daughter, and I don't like the thought of having a daughter, and when she gets of age, I'm thinking that when she gets of age, she's going to understand that it's wig time. No. It's wig time. I'm 18 now. It's wig time. I'm 19 now. It's wig time. Why? Because the bodies are wearing wigs. It's time for us to understand, and I really appreciate that. That's why, like I said, I knew it was God when it comes to my relationship, 100%, because I just so happened to find someone who, I know a lot of black women are so attached to their wigs. So that's loads of factors. The fact that I found someone who was like, never really was into wigs, and then really fit into, so I don't control her. We see eye to eye on that, and I feel proud to be with someone who is trailblazing to how you can live a day in, day out life with your natural beauty, and rebuilding and putting her foot forward to rebuild the imagery of black beauty. Right now she's doing little twists, and it's kind of like a pixie cut thing she got going on. I'm like, this is sexy. But people would rather get the wig and do a pixie cut. A wig pixie cut. But it's like God gave us a twist. It's even unorthodox. So it's like, y'all, that's why for me black love is important. Imagery. I want black, I want young black dudes to be like, yo, you see Harrison, this girl? And I want I want that to be young black. That's the image when I think of Dublin, when I think of what I do and why I do this. I think of a Dublin where black women are it. They walk the streets, and not this thing where we're trying to hype them up. Black women, black women, black women, black women. Not saying y'all are not it, because you are it. But you get your flowers for being it, genuinely. Not a moment where people are saying blonde bob. Sorry, it's not this towards anybody, but how are you going to gas up about when black women are wearing Caucasian wigs? I want it where it's like, yo, did you see when she walked through with the nappy? Even if there's a one in that group with a wig on, they'd be like, nah, that one with the short hair and the nappy, like. And she walks being poured into by society, like. And they know. And young black boys and that. I got so much what I dream of when I do, of a certain island that I look and I dream at, and I want to see that. So for me, that's the point I want to come to today. There's loads of other points about why black love is important, financially, everything. But for me, the imagery, we cannot just skip past the damage that happened to them as if it didn't happen. It happened. So what are we going to do to rebuild it? The other night I saw that meme, that funny meme of Obama with his foot on the table in the White House. Remember that one? And then he said he's about to text something, isn't it? And then Michelle comes and snatches the phone. It's like, and I deeped it for a second. Although I've got some things with Obama, I'm not, I'm questioning because I don't know enough about it. I think he did enough. I think the problem with the Obama situation is that things became more radical, if we can call it radical, after he left. We forget what time he really lived in, And I think now that's why Michelle is wearing the braids more and like that. They feel like, I wish I'd done more, but it's all right. Because when you were in power, things weren't the way they were now. Things changed, took a turn right after, So it may feel like you could have done more. The next one who goes in there will be expecting a lot more from them. But I try to remember what, we could probably have a radical person in the White House now, a radical black person. And look, guys, I'm fighting for black Taoiseach. We'll talk about that another day. But imagine a black Taoiseach with a black woman. That says something. It speaks something. It reminds our women that, no, you are beautiful. That is what I'm going for. For me, sorry to say this before I sign out. If 90% of our women are wearing wigs 90% of the time, we cannot act like that's just how kids love to wear trap star because Central C wears trap star. It's rooted in something so severe, so real. It's rooted in something so real, the defamation of our beauty, of our features. And we have to address that. If you say you're pro-black, it should be there to say, and once you begin to do this in your mind, I promise you, your love, you want to outpour on a black woman. You want to. So when God brought this for me, it was just like I wanted to, and it was just perfect, and it just fit, and like, y'all know the story anyway. So anyway, I might do a podcast one day of how we met again. There's one on YouTube, on her YouTube account. You guys should go watch it. It's really good. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. And actually, my last thing, we got someone who is so totally and utter for us. Totally and utterly for us. Even if you don't agree with what he's saying, just be happy that we got someone who's totally and utterly for us. If you have a problem with a brother who's totally and utterly for us, you've got an absolute problem. And I'm on a mission for you.